Welcome back to The Turnover. I am Alex Kerstetter, back alongside Kelvin Reisenfeld. It was a very entertaining week one of NFL action, from Brady and the Bucs' loss to the Cardinals with an early statement win. We have plenty to discuss, so let's get going.
Let's get into it.
So we're going to give a shout-out, an offensive shout-out to Aaron Rodgers, who threw for 364 yards and 4 touchdowns. The Packers scored more points than anybody this week, and they took a week one win against the division rival Vikings. The defensive shout-out will go to Chase Young's defense with the Washington Redskins.
Upset of the week.
Yes, they came back from 17 down to win 27-17. Chase Young had his first career strip sack. The Washington Redskins had 8 sacks total against the Philadelphia Eagles, even though Philly had 3 injured offensive linemen. Moving on to Tom Brady and the Bucs' disappointing loss against the Saints. They did start out hot. Tom Brady let them down. They had a 7-0 lead. But ultimately, New Orleans was too much for the Bucs to handle.
Saints look good, man.
Yeah.
Saints are a dangerous team this year in the NFL, I'll tell you what.
I think this was not necessarily a statement win, but more of a make sure you know who we are win by the Saints, and not to buy in too much to the Bucs.
I agree. Another big shout-out this week. We got Lamar Jackson and Russell Wilson, 2 of my MVP candidates, I think, this season. Lamar Jackson threw for 275 yards with 3 touchdowns, and Russell Wilson threw for 322 yards and 4 touchdowns. Good to have them on your fantasy team this week.
Before we get going into our weekly predictions, we're going to keep a running tally on how we do throughout the season. Last week, I went 10-6. Kelvin went 9-7. Whoever's the loser at the end of the season will have to do something ridiculous for one of these shows, but that's to be determined between both of us. So, Bengals versus Browns. Who do you got this week?
You know, I'm so glad that we can get this out of the way, because the Bengals just ripped my heart out on another week one, man. We had it down on the 31-yard field goal. You know what I did after the game, after I saw Randy Bullock miss that field goal? I took myself and a couple of the other UF soccer players out to the rugby field behind my house and kicked 31-yard field goals in cargo shorts and bare feet, and nobody missed. And that's all I got to say about that. Joe Burrow looked like he was running for his life the entire game, playing tag with the Chargers' defensive line. They just really, it was, again, Kerstetter said it last week that it was the most unappealing game for the Chargers and the Bengals, and unfortunately it was a boring game. And with all of that being said, I'm still taking the Bengals to beat the Browns week 2.
Oh, my gosh.
And I think the Browns got absolutely waxed by the Ravens last week, 38-6. And that's all I got to say. I think the Bengals defense looked good. I'm going to take them week 2, sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to counter that. I think the Browns will bounce back this week. I think the Browns are going to win. I think it's a close game, though. In the Battle of Ohio, I do think it'll be a close game. However, I think that the Browns just have too much firepower, and they're too talented of a football team to lose to the Bengals.
Okay.
So I got Browns week 1.
I think you're wrong. I'm standing by the boys. You know, I think they are terrible.
Yeah, I could tell by your statements. They just lost to the Chargers. Moving on to Giants versus the Bears. This game, I think the Bears are going to win. I think that they ended up being hot against the Lions. They came back from 23-6 down. I went to soccer practice. It was 23-6. Came back. It was 27-23, so a bit of a change of heart for myself.
So much pain.
I wanted to believe the Giants were going to do well. After watching them yesterday, I just don't have faith in them. The Steelers let them in the game for a while, but the Giants weren't able to do anything about it. I think the Bears come out and win this game.
I got another disagreement right off the bat. I think that the Giants look strong against a tough Steelers defense. Darius Slayton is a big offensive talent. I don't think Saquon Barkley is going to do nearly as bad as he did this week against the Bears. I got the Giants winning week 2. I think it could be another close game, but that's just what I got.
Also, shout out to Ben Roethlisberger, who ran for 9 yards, and Saquon Barkley ran for 6. So that's a great week 1 for them. Moving on to the Rams versus the Eagles. You want to take this one?
Yeah, I got the Rams over the Eagles. The Eagles last week, they lost to the Washington football team, and the Rams looked really good. They got a high-power offense, a lot of threats for Jared Goff to throw the ball to. I think Cam Akers is going to have a strong week against the Eagles' defense, and I expect them to win by at least a touchdown.
I would agree with that. After watching the Rams last week, they looked well coached. They looked really organized. They played a complete football game against the Cowboys, who made me eat my words because I really thought the Cowboys were going to come out hot. But the Rams just looked really organized. Philly has 3 injured offensive linemen, as previously stated, giving up 8 sacks, 2 interceptions by Carson Wentz. I just think the Rams will be too much for the Eagles in this one.
Going with your Cowboys, going with your team, because I know you're going to take them on this week.
You're taking the Cowboys?
No, I know that's what you're about to say.
Oh, yeah, I got to go with the Cowboys. They're going to have a bounce-back game. Atlanta did not look good. Matt Ryan threw for 450 yards, though. That's kind of a ridiculous stat. He was throwing the ball all game. Todd Gurley had an okay game. He had 60 yards, I believe. But I just think the Cowboys, I think their offense will be much head and shoulders above the Falcons. I don't think the Falcons' offense offers too much that could threat the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are going to win this game, bounce back 1-1.
I got another disagreement here. And this is one of the games that I was going through, and I'm circling the Falcons on my sheet simply out of spite. I don't want to see the Cowboys perform well this year. They said they did exactly what I thought that they were going to do week 1. They kept it close, and in the end, they just could not finish off the game. I think the Falcons threw up some pretty good numbers against a very talented Seahawks team, in my opinion. I think they're going to bounce back and go 1-1 headed into week 3 after they take on the Cowboys. I think it's going to be a close game, possibly one to watch for me.
I'd agree with that, but I still am taking the boys.
Taking the boys?
Going on to the Panthers versus the Buccaneers. Do you think Tom Brady's bouncing back this week?
I gave him my heart last week in the show, saying that they were going to take on the Saints, and the Saints made me eat those words really quick because the Saints are a dominant team this year. I think they're going to be one to watch. And with that being said, I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are winning week 2. I think that the Panthers, although they had played a really good game against the Los Angeles Raiders last week, and it was a close game, 34-30. I don't see this Bucs with the talent that they have. I think they're going to piece their puzzle together a little bit on the offensive end. I don't think Tom Brady necessarily makes those mistakes he did last week against the Panthers defense, and I think he's going to have his way, and the Bucs are going to take week 2.
I'm agreeing with the Tampa Bay Bucs coming. I think that they're going to be a team that gets better throughout the year, considering there's no preseason or time for them to practice playing together. I think the Panthers are not a bad team, but they're no New Orleans Saints. I think the Buccaneers are able to handle the Panthers' offense. All they have to make sure is Christian McCaffrey doesn't take over this game. But out and out, I think the Tampa Bay Bucs also win.
I didn't think the Bucs defense looked that bad. I mean, I know that they went up against a high-powered offense, but, I mean, Drew Brees only threw for 160 yards.
Alvin Kamara ran for 16.
They look tough, and I think that their defense is still undergraded. I think a lot of the slander they got last year was based off of the fact that Jameis Winston threw 30 interceptions, and the defense had to be on the field the entire time. So I think I like the Bucs in week 2.
I agree. 49ers versus the Jets. I think the 49ers win this game by a lot. I think the Jets, they just lost Le'Veon Bell, who is one of their only offensive weapons. The 49ers are coming off of a loss to the Cardinals, a tough loss. I think the 49ers are going to come out organized, ready to win. I think they're going to win this game big. I think the defense is going to give the Jets maybe 10 points.
Think it's a blowout of the week game?
I think it has potential to be, but I thought the 49ers would score more points than 20 last week, and they let me down, so I'm not going to call that.
I think I agree. It is a tough year already to be a Jets fan. They didn't bring a lot to the table. I mean, I know they battled with the Bills a little bit last week. The 49ers are certainly going to bounce back from the loss to the Cardinals. I think they are going to be playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder and make people remember that they were the team that was competing for a championship ring last year. I think the 49ers take week 2.
I agree. Broncos versus the Steelers. After watching their games last night, they both played yesterday. The Broncos, I'll give them, they looked better than I expected them to.
I agree.
But so did the Steelers. And while the Steelers and Giants game was close, and it felt like it was going to be a close game, the Steelers ended up running away with it. Their defense was locked down as expected. Like Saquon Barkley had, 6 yards.
Yeah.
They played very handedly. I'm giving this one to the Steelers. I just don't think the Broncos have enough to compete with the Steelers.
I think he summed it up pretty well. I think the Steelers' defense is going to be tough as hell this year, just like they always are. Big Ben looked pretty decent yesterday. His arm looked like it was a couple years younger than what it should be. The Broncos played a tough game yesterday, too, against the Tennessee Titans last night. But I just don't see their offense being able to work on that Steelers defense that much. I think the Steelers are going to have one of the top defenses in the league this year. I think the Steelers are going to be competing in that AFC North for the second spot. If not, they could be competing with the Rams, in my opinion.
T.J. Watt looked good again.
Yes.
He had an interception. He just looked very smart. He looked developed yet again. I think he's going to be up again for Defensive Player of the Year, without a doubt. Jaguars versus the Titans.
How about the Jags surprising some people in that week one? I thought that the Jags were going to be the worst team in the NFL, and I will retract that statement already. I think that if there's a team that's going to be worse than the Jags, I think the Jets will be worse than them.
I don't disagree.
And I think, but that being said, I do think the Titans are going to take week one. They started off a little shaky last night. That offense looked like it was getting some trouble with the Broncos' defense. Derrick Henry didn't have a lot of success running the football, which is the same situation that he had last year against the Broncos' defense as well. I think against the Jaguars, he is going to take off and dictate the pace of this game.
I agree. I think that the Jaguars shocked everybody. Gardner Minshew threw 95%, 3 TDs.
Yeah, 19 for 20.
Yeah, they showed out against the Colts. They really did. However, I agree. I think the Titans are going to be just better than the Jaguars. Though the Titans, they always play close games.
Yeah, they do. They do.
And after Gostowski just he missed 4 kicks yesterday. He ended up making the game winner, but it'll be a close one. I think, again, I'm giving 24-21 Tennessee Titans.
I just saw a tweet on Twitter this morning. It was Bill Belichick drafts Gostkowski, and now he becomes Shankowski for the Tennessee Titans. So, I mean, I don't know if he saw that coming, if he's that guru that Bill Belichick is, but, yeah, that was some big missed field goals. A lot of missed field goals, I think, week one. Yeah.
They haven't gotten any kicks in. A lot of them
No.
haven't gotten reps. Gostkowski was coming off of an injury, so he hasn't gotten repetition.
Yeah,
But Titans.
Randy
take
Bullock
this
faked
one.
an injury at the end of that.
Oh, gosh. Lions versus Packers.
I'll let you go.
Yeah, the Lions ripped my heart out last week, as Kelvin stated the Bengals did to him. They were down to their 4th-string cornerback towards the 4th quarter. There's so many excuses you could have. DeAndre Swift is a rookie. Matthew Stafford threw that interception. You can look at it any way you want, but you just cannot lose that game. The Lions are going to be the same old Lions. I'm still going to have faith in them. However,
not like this.
Not this week.
Not like this,
Not
man.
in Lambeau. The Packers put up over 40 points. The Lions defense, though, looked okay for 3 quarters. That 4th quarter, they still gave up enough points to lose a 17-point lead. Vegas has it at a touchdown for the Packers, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's 2.
Man, Detroit deserves better on a week one. I'll say that. I'll keep it short and sweet. I think the Packers are going to take this game against the Lions. They had a dominant performance against the Vikings, who I think is another very talented NFL team this year. I got the Packers. Aaron Rodgers is going to run the big week.
Moving on to the Dolphins and the Bills.
You know I like the Bills, man. You know I like the Bills. They got a strong defense. I don't see the Dolphins giving them too much trouble on the offensive side of things. Josh Allen looked great last week. He had 3 touchdowns. I think the Bills are gonna win.
I agree. I think the Dolphins are much improved to last year. However, the Bills are as well. The Bills are constantly improving. I think they've got one of the most explosive offenses, and if not the best defense, it's top 3, and you can't take that away from them. I think that the Bills are going to win this game handedly.
I agree.
Next, Vikings versus Colts. For this game, I'm taking the Vikings. The Colts did not look that great week one. Phillip Rivers looked like exactly what he was last year, and that was just
Completely
aging man.
completely below average.
Yeah, and he's not what the Colts hoped they bought. The Vikings did look good, even though they gave up over 40 points to Aaron Rodgers and co. I just think the Vikings are going to bounce back. They're going to be 1-1. The Colts are going to lose this game, and I don't see the Colts getting too much better throughout the year. Marlon Mack's out for the season with a torn Achilles. Jonathan Taylor's got a lot of weight to pull. I'm just taking the Vikings in this one.
I agree. Dalvin Cook, I think, is going to have a dominant week against this Colts defense. And on the flip side of things, I think Phillip Rivers will struggle against the Vikings defense. That's about all I got to say about this game. I'm taking the Vikings by at least 10 points.
All right. The Washington football team and the Cardinals. Why don't you start us off?
I think this is definitely a game to watch, one to watch. A very interesting matchup here. Both teams coming off of big upsets. The Washington football team taking the Eagles by storm, as well as the Cardinals holding the 49ers to 20 points. Kyler Murray looked great, in my opinion. He looked very oddly comfortable against the 49ers defense, who's we all know is stacked. DeAndre Hopkins with career high in receptions. 14 receptions. And it'd be good to have him on your fantasy team that week. And I also just think that along with their offense, they're young, but they also have some veterans. Larry Fitzgerald, he's got options to throw. He's got Larry Fitz, DeAndre Hopkins to throw the ball to, Kenyon Drake's in the backfield. I like the Cardinals. I like the Cardinals in this game. I think the Washington football team is going to put up a good fight. Their defensive line, and like you said, 8 sacks, could potentially give Kyler Murray some trouble. Dwayne Haskins, I thought, played well for the Washington football team. But I think the Cardinals will take this one. I could see it coming down to a field goal, in my opinion.
I'm actually going to counter that. I think Washington's going to shock the NFL and start 2-0. Washington had 8 sacks last week. Kyler Murray, though he can scramble, this defensive line on Washington is a force to be reckoned with. I think Dwayne Haskins has played okay. He had 170 yards week 1. Terry McLaurin is always a bright spot for Washington. I think their defense keeps them in it, and I think Washington ends up winning a close game. And I just think the Cardinals, I think they're going to be one of those teams that's just going to play good football this year, but they're going to go about 500.
Really? After the week 1 win?
Yes, I think they're just going to be a team that just kind of beats the good teams, and against teams like Washington can't find a way to win.
Lose against the teams that they should beat?
Yeah.
Okay, one of those competing teams. I like that. I like that take. I think the Washington football team is definitely. I agree with what you said. We said week 1 is going to be one to watch us here, and I think the Cardinals bring a lot to the table. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch.
I agree. Now we have the Ravens versus the Texans.
Take it away.
I don't think there's much to be said after watching Houston just get destroyed by the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Baltimore Ravens do the same thing to the Browns. The Ravens look really good this year. Lamar Jackson looks like he's back. J.K. Dobbins starts his NFL career with 2 touchdowns. The Ravens defense gave up 6 points. Houston struggled to get anything going against the Chiefs. From a glance before the year, this might have looked like a Game of the Year candidate. However, I think the Ravens are just going to run away with it. Houston's got a lot of holes. Lamar Jackson's, I think he's going to have a day. I think he's going to have over 250 pass yards, probably over 50 to close to 100 rushing yards. I don't even think Houston's going to be able to put up 20 points.
Yeah, I think not even score 20.
I just don't see any weapons outside of Deshaun Watson.
I'll say Deshaun Watson, credit to him in that Chiefs game. They only lost by 2 touchdowns. He kept them in it with maybe a couple late drives there at the end that looked like they could maybe do some damage. However, I will take the Ravens as well. I think their firepower on their offense is really good. Marquise Brown had a great week. I think the Ravens are going to do the same thing that the Chiefs did to the Texans in a different fashion. I think they're going to dominate the ground game a little bit more than the Chiefs did. But to their credit, I think that they are going to take week 2 and go 2-0 over the Texans.
Yeah, I'd agree. Both Kansas City and Baltimore have very dominant offenses, but they do it in different ways.
Yes.
And it's fun to watch.
It is really fun football to watch.
Yeah.
The Chiefs, they got we're about to talk about them next, but they got a lot of firepower in their offense.
And on cue, we've got the Chargers and the Chiefs.
I hope the Chiefs absolutely just run through the Chargers this week. And that I say that with so much hate in my heart. It's not even funny. I think the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes is just going to do his thing. As much as the Chargers put pressure on Joe Burrow last week, I think that their defensive line will not be nearly as impactful against the Chiefs' offensive line. Patrick Mahomes will have more time to throw the football, more so than he did last week. And I think that he's just got so many weapons to throw to. Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins had a great week last week.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah, big rookie standout. I think he's a piece to them that they didn't know that they needed until we saw him last week. Very impressive performance all around by the Chiefs, and I say this could be a blowout of the week as well.
Yeah, this is my blowout of the week. I just think the Chiefs have too much for the Los Angeles Chargers to even think about handling. As mentioned, Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a ridiculous week 1. He looked really good. He's low to the ground. He's quick. Defenders
Explosive.
can't touch him.
Yes.
He had ridiculous yards after contact. He can break tackles. As you said, I think that he is a piece to the puzzle, but they didn't realize how well it fit.
Yeah.
They obviously took him week 1 over running backs like DeAndre Swift and J.K. Dobbins, but
It paid off.
they saw something for him, and I think this is going to be a really good rookie season for him, and I think the NFL is put on watch after 1 week of watching him.
I agree with that.
Now we are moving on to the Patriots and the Seahawks.
I got this as the game of the week. I think this is going to be a big game to watch. I think it's going to be a big statement game for both of these teams and decide what kind of team both of these teams are going to be this year. Are the Patriots the real deal? Are the Seahawks as dominant as they were week 1? I think it's going to answer a lot of questions about both of these squads. With that being said, I'm taking Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, Chris Carson's, all are going to be big performers again this week. I really like the Seahawks this year. I think I put them in a tier with the Saints, the Packers, and up there with the Chiefs and Ravens, in my opinion. I think they're that good this year.
You think they're Super Bowl contenders?
No, easily. Seahawks are good, a great coach, solid defense, great offense. I like everything about them.
I do as well. However, I'm giving this week to the New England Patriots.
Taking it to them?
For the reason that last week they also made me eat my words. I thought that Miami was going to be organized and upset them. I thought that Bill Belichick, not that he wouldn't have his boys ready,
right,
but I thought the Dolphins were going to come out swinging. I was mistaken. Cam Newton looked good.
Oddly comfortable.
He looked really happy.
Really comfortable in that.
It's great to see someone happy back in his element, and that's something that I think is going to carry on. I think this is going to be a great game. This is Bill Belichick and Cam Newton versus Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll. I think that says enough about the game as it is.
Yeah.
Though the Patriots' defensive line is questionable for the run game.
Yes.
And Chris Carson could have a day. I think they hold him off enough, and I think the Patriots end up winning, and Cam gets his first big statement win with the Patriots.
What do you think the final score of that game is going to be about?
Man, if I were to just put a number on it, I'd say probably 31-28.
31-28 to the Pats?
Yeah, I'd keep it under 5.
Under 5. Really? I see the Seahawks winning this game by over a touchdown. I don't even know if it'll come down to a last drive. I really like the Seahawks this year. I don't know why, but I like them against the New England Patriots.
Yeah, the Seahawks, they do look really good. And they're normally a team that gets hotter as the year goes on.
Yeah, and Russell Wilson already looks mid-season form.
Yeah.
He threw 4 touchdowns, 322 yards, like in week 1 against the Falcons, who don't have a great defense, but I mean, put up numbers like that coming off of no preseason, first live game, and you're going to put up numbers like that. You better watch out. The NFL better look out for the Seattle Seahawks because they mean business this year.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I just think the Patriots are taking this one. I think Bill Belichick's just going to get his boys ready, get them ready for war.
We'll talk about that week 3 and see what happens.
All right, We'll bring it up. Last, we have the Saints and the Raiders. I think the Raiders are very well coached. I think they're a team that's actually just going to wreak havoc in the NFL this year in terms of just taking games that ultimately they shouldn't on paper. But I do not believe this is one of those games. Michael Thomas is injured.
Yes.
He is questionable for this week with an ankle injury after Latavius Murray fell on it and he rolled it awkwardly. However, I think the Saints have too many weapons. It's next man up. Jared Cook had 80 yards. Drew Brees didn't have that many yards as previously stated. Alvin Kamara didn't. That doesn't mean this week they're not going to go off. Jared Cook had 80 yards, as said. Emmanuel Sanders had a good week. There's too many weapons on that Saints offense, and their defense is too good for the Raiders.
Saints played a good game last week, man. They played a really good game last week. Alvin Kamara is, in my opinion, if not the most versatile offensive threat in the league. He can come out of the backfield. He can fill in the slot. He's really good in the red zone, as you saw the other day. He had 2 touchdowns. The Raiders, however, surprised me. They played a lot better than I thought. I know I called the Panthers last week, beating them by a field goal, and the Raiders ended up winning by 4. I think that they compete with the Saints. I really do. I don't think that this is going to be a blowout. Drew Brees looked okay last week. Like you said, only 160 yards. I think he bounces back this week. I'm still taking the Saints, but I don't believe that this will be a big win for the Saints. I think that they'll squeeze by the Raiders, and I think the Raiders are going to put up a tough fight.
Yeah, the Saints, they looked okay last week, as Kelvin said, but they kept that game close for, in my opinion, too long. for a game that they should have been running away with because their defense was playing well.
Yeah, that's another thing too, is I don't think that the Raiders, I don't think Josh Jacobs is going to have the week he did last week against the Saints defense.
Over 90 yards, 3 touchdowns. He had a great week 1 against the Panthers, but I'd agree with that as well. So that is the end of this week's show. If you guys have any questions or anything you would like to ask us or have us cover, you can add us on Twitter. You can message us. My Twitter is @akerst_. That's AKERST_. Just send us a DM. Let us know what you want us to talk about.
Yeah, @Kelv_Reisenfeld. Hit me up on Twitter and let us know what you think of the show. If you have any questions or you want to, any takes that you guys think, we can try and incorporate that into the next show. Also, for the end of the season, as we keep our tallies, let us know if you have any ideas for us that you'd want to see one of us do something on set at the end of the season.
Something dumb.
Something dumb and funny. Keep it light here.
Have a good week too, and thank you.
UFTV is your university and community TV station.